Imagine a civilization defined not by vast open plains, but by the sea and the mountains. This is the story of ancient Greece. Because the mountains made transportation difficult, the country was hard to unite. Instead of one big empire, the Greeks developed into small, separate communities cut off from one another. But the sea was their lifeline. With limited usable land, the Greeks turned to fishing and trading. They swapped olive oil and wine for the grain they desperately needed to survive. Today, we are covering part 1 of our Western Civ series. From the early Minoans to the golden age of Athens and the military might of Sparta. It started on the island of Crete with the Minoan civilization. They were a trading power who didn't even build walls around their cities because they believed their ships and sea were protection enough. Around 1100 BC, things went dark. The Dark Age of Greece began when Dorian invaders swarmed the peninsula. These invaders had a huge military advantage: iron weapons. The glory of the earlier civilizations vanished. Out of this darkness, a new structure emerged: the polis, or city-state. Life revolved around the Acropolis, a fortified hilltop fortress where people met to discuss affairs and honor the gods. Two of these city-states rose above the rest, but they couldn't have been more different. First, let's talk about Sparta. Sparta was built on control. The state controlled your life from the moment you were born. Babies were even brought before inspectors called ephors. At age 7, boys left home to live in military barracks. They were fed so little that they were expected to steal food to survive. But if they were caught, they were beaten. Art and literature. They had almost no place in Spartan education. Then there was Athens. While Sparta focused on war, Athens became the birthplace of democracy. It didn't happen overnight. Reformers like Solon abolished debt, slavery, and Cleisthenes introduced ostracism, where citizens could vote to temporarily exile a politician from the city. In Athens, education focused on grammar, music, and rhetoric, the art of public speaking. However, it wasn't a paradise for everyone. Women had no political rights and were expected to just be faithful guardians of the household. Athens wasn't just about voting. It was about thinking. The Greeks believed in the individual's ability to reason. It started with Socrates. He developed the Socratic method, a way of teaching through questioning. But his questions annoyed the authorities. He was eventually condemned to death for disrespecting the gods. His student Plato was crushed by Socrates' death. He left Athens but returned to set up a school called the Academy. Plato wrote about the ideal state based on justice, and he actually wanted to abolish private property because he thought it made people selfish. Plato's star student was Aristotle. Aristotle eventually left the Academy to teach a very famous pupil, Alexander the Great. But we'll get to him in the next video. This golden age faced massive threats. First came the Persians. In 490 BC, the Athenians defeated the Persian forces at the Battle of Marathon, a moment they considered their finest hour. But the Greeks' worst enemy turned out to be themselves. In 431 BC, the Peloponnesian War broke out between Athens and the allies of Sparta. It was a disaster. The Athenian leader Pericles ordered everyone inside the city walls, but the city was overcrowded and a plague broke out, killing over a third of the population, including Pericles himself. Athens never regained its military power, but its culture would survive, and it would be spread across the world by that young student of Aristotle we mentioned earlier. In part 2, we'll follow Alexander the Great as he builds the largest empire the world had ever seen. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.